chosen one, your silence has not been empty and it has not been wasted. What looked like stillness on the outside has been a storm of movement in the spirit, because there are seasons when God does his deepest work in the places where no human voice can reach you. You have been carrying things you did not have words for, standing through battles you could not explain, and holding yourself together in rooms where nobody understood how much strength it took for you just to remain standing. People saw you grow quiet and thought you had nothing to say. They mistook your restraint for weakness, your patience for passivity, and your tears for surrender. But heaven did not misread you. Heaven knew exactly what your silence meant. It meant you were choosing not to break. It meant you were trusting God when there was no applause, no confirmation, and no visible sign that anything was changing. There is a kind of silence that comes from defeat. But that is not the silence you have been walking through. Your silence has been the silence of endurance. It has been the silence of a soul learning how to survive without constant reassurance. It has been the silence of someone who has cried enough, explained enough, defended enough, and finally placed the whole weight of the matter before God. You stopped trying to force people to understand you. You stopped knocking on doors that were committed to staying closed. You stopped begging for what should have been given freely. And in that holy restraint, something shifted. The moment you stopped trying to make your case to people who had already decided to misunderstand you, heaven leaned in closer. This is why your quiet season has carried so much power. You were not doing nothing. You were being formed. Beloved, some of your greatest prayers were never spoken out loud. They rose from the ache in your chest, from the heaviness in your breathing, from the late night moments when you sat in the dark trying to make peace with what life had become. God heard all of it. He heard the prayer you prayed through your endurance. He heard the prayer hidden in your disappointment. He heard the prayer in the choice to stay kind when bitterness would have been easier. He heard the prayer in your decision not to retaliate. And because he heard it, he has not remained still. Do not confuse divine silence with divine absence. God can be quiet and active at the same time. He can seem hidden while arranging what your eyes have not yet seen. He can appear delayed while preparing a response so precise that when it arrives, you will know it could only have come from him. This is the hour to understand that your silence moved heaven because it proved something. It proved that your faith was not built only on visible blessings. It proved that your obedience was not dependent on immediate reward. It proved that even in confusion, even in disappointment, even in the ache of unanswered questions, something in you still chose to remain near God. That choice matters more than you know. Every time you refuse to let pain turn you into someone hard, heaven recorded it. Every time you kept going without recognition, heaven recorded it. Every time you whispered, "I do not understand, but I still trust you," heaven recorded it. And now what has been recorded is about to be answered. There are moments in life when God allows your voice to grow quiet so that his voice can become unmistakable. That is where you are. You have reached a threshold where human opinions are losing their hold, and divine direction is about to break through with unusual clarity. This is not coincidence. This is divine intervention. You are not listening to this by accident. You are standing in a moment where the quiet has done its work, and the next sound you hear in your spirit will not be confusion. It will be instruction. It will be confirmation. It will be the sound of God making plain what once felt hidden. You have lived under the weight of too many mixed signals, too many false starts, too many almost moments. But the season ahead will not speak in riddles. God is about to speak out loud through open doors, through sudden peace, through unmistakable separation. and through the kind of alignment no one can counterfeit. Do not despise the silence you came through. It stripped away illusions. It revealed who could not go with you. It taught you how to stop leaning on noise for comfort. It taught you how to survive the in-between. It taught you that your identity does not collapse just because people stop clapping for you. What you learned there is sacred. What was built there is durable. The silence trained you to hear with your spirit instead of reacting with your emotions. It taught you to wait without falling apart. It taught you to stand without explaining. And because of that, the next thing God releases into your life will not crush you. You are stronger now, clearer now, more anchored now. So when heaven begins to answer, do not shrink back as though you are unworthy of being seen. Do not apologize for the shift. Do not talk yourself out of what God is confirming. There are people who only believed in your pain because they never imagined your promotion. There are people who got comfortable with your silence because they assumed it meant your story was ending quietly. But God does not end chosen lives in silence. He uses silence as the womb of revelation. He uses hidden seasons to prepare visible glory. He uses restraint to build authority. And what is coming next will carry the weight of everything you survived in secret. Right here, in this moment, make your agreement with heaven. Comment 222 if you know your silence was not the end, but the beginning of God's answer. Let that be your sign that your spirit is awake, your heart is open, and your faith is still standing. Chosen one, stay steady now. You are closer than you think. The silence has already spoken for you in places you could not reach. And what it said before heaven was powerful. It said you remained. It said you endured. It said you still belong to God when lesser hearts would have turned back. That is why the atmosphere around your life is changing. That is why what was delayed cannot remain delayed forever. That is why the voice of God is about to cut through everything that has tried to confuse you. Your silence moved heaven, and now heaven is preparing an answer that will move the earth around you. Chosen one, what has felt like abandonment has actually been examination. Because there are seasons when God does not rush to remove the pressure around you. He allows the weight to remain long enough for something deeper to be formed within you. That is why this part of your journey has carried so much tension. You are not being ignored. You are being tested in the hidden chambers of the soul, where faith stops performing for people and starts learning how to stand before God alone. A public blessing can be admired by anyone, but only a tested heart can carry a sacred assignment without breaking under the responsibility of it. God has been watching what you do when nobody comforts you, how you respond when nobody explains your pain, and whether your trust remains alive when life keeps going silent around you. This is why the story that best walks beside your message is the story of Hannah. Hannah knew what it meant to carry sorrow in silence while others looked on without understanding. She knew the ache of waiting, the humiliation of delay, and the deep inward pain of wanting an answer that heaven had not yet released. Her struggle was not shallow. It reached into her identity, her hope, her prayers, and her ability to face each day without collapsing. She lived in the tension of promise not yet fulfilled, and that tension made her a woman of tears, of longing, and of hidden endurance. That is why her story belongs here. She was not loud in the eyes of the world, but her silence moved heaven. You know what that feels like? You know what it means to carry grief quietly because explaining it to people only makes you more tired. You know what it means to be surrounded by voices and still feel alone with your burden. You know what it means to hold yourself together while something deep inside you keeps asking God the same question over and over again. Hannah lived there. She stood in a place where other people could see her distress, but they could not interpret it correctly. They could witness her sorrow, but they could not measure its depth. That is often how testing works for a chosen one. The outer life continues, but the inner life is being stretched in ways that nobody around you fully understands. Hannah teaches you that testing is not always noisy. Sometimes it is made of long years, repeated disappointments, and prayers that seem to rise into silence. Sometimes it looks like being misunderstood while still trying to stay tender before God. Sometimes it means living with the ache of not knowing why the answer has not come yet. That was Hannah's reality. She was carrying a wound that words could not easily solve. She was not fighting a visible battle with swords and armies. She was fighting the invisible battle of a heart trying not to give up while waiting on God's timing. That is why her life speaks so powerfully into your own. What you are enduring may not look dramatic to everyone else, but heaven knows the magnitude of what it has taken for you to keep believing. There comes a point in a hidden test where the soul stops trying to impress people and simply pours itself out before God. Hannah reached that point. She did not perform strength. She did not hide behind polished language. She brought her anguish honestly before the Lord. That is one of the holiest things a chosen one can learn. Real faith is not pretending you do not hurt. Real faith is bringing the hurt into God's presence and refusing to leave bitterness in charge of your heart. Hannah's silence was not emptiness. It was prayer too deep for spectacle. It was grief becoming surrender. It was pain turning toward heaven instead of away from it. This is why her story fits your message more closely than many realize. Your silence has not been meaningless. It has been communicating something to God more clearly than many spoken words ever could. It has said, "I am still here." It has said, "I am wounded, but I have not walked away." It has said, "I do not understand this season, but I still know where to bring my soul." Hannah stood in that same holy contradiction. She was deeply troubled, yet still reaching. She was exhausted, yet still praying. She was reduced to tears, yet still coming before the Lord. That is not weakness. That is endurance in its purest form. Hold this verse close because it reveals the kind of moment Hannah lived in, and the kind of moment you are living in now. I have been pouring out my soul before the Lord. 1 Samuel chapter 1 verse 15. That one line carries the weight of hidden testing. It shows you that heaven does not dismiss a soul that comes undone in God's presence. Heaven does not mock tears. Heaven does not turn away from anguish honestly laid before the throne. God listens when a chosen one reaches the end of self-protection and begins to pour out the truth. That is where sacred change begins. Not always in public celebration, but in private surrender. What made Hannah's life so powerful was not only that she wanted an answer. It was that her pain drove her deeper into God rather than farther from Him. That is the difference between being crushed and being refined. Pain can make a person hard, suspicious, and empty. But when surrendered to God, it can also make a person deep, clean, and ready. Hannah was being prepared in a hidden place she did not fully understand at the time. She thought she was only praying for relief, but God was shaping a vessel that could carry something far greater than immediate comfort. The delay was painful, yes, but it was not pointless. It was producing depth, dependence, and holy clarity. That is what your testing has been doing in you. It has been stripping away shallow confidence. It has been revealing how much of your strength must come from God alone. It has been teaching you to stop leaning on appearances and start leaning on His presence. Like Hannah, You have had to learn how to stand in a place where no human voice could fix what you were carrying. You have had to discover whether your relationship with God could survive confusion, whether your trust could survive delay, and whether your hope could survive silence. These are not small lessons. They are the very things that prepare a chosen life for holy impact. So do not misname this season. You are not forgotten. You are being formed in the place where shallow faith cannot survive. You are being taught how to pour out your soul without losing your reverence, how to grieve without surrendering your covenant, and how to wait without letting despair take the throne. Hannah's story proves that God does not waste the silent years of his chosen ones. He watches, he hears, he measures every tear accurately. And when the season of testing has finished what it needs to finish, he does not answer in fragments. He answers with a weight that reveals he was listening the whole time. That is why you must stay steady now. Your hidden testing is not the end of your story. It is the place where heaven is preparing to respond. Chosen one. Heaven has recorded every tear you tried to hide, every sigh you swallowed, every prayer you could not fully put into words. And every night you lay awake asking God whether your silence was still reaching him. Nothing has been lost. Nothing has slipped past his attention. The world may only notice what is loud, visible, and dramatic, but God is not limited by surface sight. He reads sorrow before it becomes speech. He understands pain before it becomes explanation. He sees the burden beneath your smile, the pressure beneath your composure, and the trembling faith that still reaches for him even after repeated disappointment. This is why your hidden grief has not been wasted. Heaven has been gathering the evidence of your endurance. Hannah knew this mystery well. She was not merely a woman with a desire. She was a woman carrying a deep ache that seemed to follow her into sacred places. There are some wounds that do not stay at home when you go to worship. They travel with you. They sit in your chest while songs are being sung. They stand beside you while others rejoice. They rise in your throat when you try to pray. Hannah carried that kind of pain. Yet the beauty of her story is not just that she suffered. It is that she kept bringing her soul into the presence of God until her sorrow became a language heaven could answer. You are in that same kind of season now. The tears you thought were falling in private were never falling alone. God was there. The moments when you felt too drained to explain yourself were not moments of abandonment. They were moments of witness. Heaven was not waiting for polished prayers. Heaven was listening to the raw truth of your condition. This is important for you to understand because many chosen ones begin to think they are failing spiritually when they can no longer pray with elegant confidence. But some of the most powerful prayers do not sound impressive. They sound like surrender. They sound like brokenness that still turns toward God. They sound like a soul saying, "I have nothing left to perform, but I am still here before you." That is what Hannah offered. She poured out her soul, and in doing so, she revealed something holy. God is not moved by noise alone. He is moved by truth. He is moved by the heart that comes honestly, the spirit that does not pretend, the life that has been bruised and still reaches upward. Your tears have been speaking truth before the throne of heaven. They have been saying that you still care, still hope, still believe somewhere beneath the fatigue. They have been saying that despite everything, your soul still knows where to go. That matters more than you realize. Every tear was a witness. Every silent prayer was a record. Every act of continued trust became part of the testimony heaven is building over your life. There is a sacred turning point in Hannah's story that speaks directly to you. She was not instantly delivered the moment she felt pain. She had to remain in the place of pouring out. She had to continue bringing herself honestly before God until something shifted inside her before it shifted around her. That is often how divine response begins. Before circumstances change, God strengthens the heart that has been carrying them. Before the outward answer comes, an inward settling begins. Before the visible release, a quiet assurance enters the spirit. Chosen one, pay attention to that. God has been doing more in you than you can measure. Even before the outward answer fully arrives, He is already changing how your soul stands under the weight. This is why you must not despise your tears. The world often treats tears as weakness, but in the kingdom of God, they can become offerings. They can become evidence that your heart has not gone cold. They can become proof that beneath your weariness there is still love, still longing, still reverence. Hannah's tears were not signs that she had lost faith. They were signs that her faith was alive enough to ache, and your tears have carried that same message. They have risen before God as living proof that your silence was not empty. It was full of trust under pressure, hope under strain, and worship in the middle of disappointment. As you listen to this, let your heart settle deeper into that truth. You have not been invisible to heaven. You have not been discarded because the answer has taken time. You have not been left alone to interpret your own suffering. God has been near in ways you did not always feel, and attentive in ways you could not always trace. He has counted what others dismissed. He has treasured what others overlooked. He has watched your private endurance with more care than you can imagine. And because He has, this season will not end in silence forever. The same God who saw Hannah weep saw the moment her prayer ripened. The same God who watched her anguish also watched the appointed time draw near. If this message is strengthening your spirit, let it stay with others who are carrying hidden battles too. Gently like this message. Share it with someone who has been walking through a quiet storm, and subscribe so you can continue receiving words that help steady your faith in seasons like this. And if your heart is led to support this work, you can also give through the donation link in the description. Helping these messages keep reaching those who need them most. There is something powerful that happens when wounded people realize they are not forgotten by God. Their breathing changes, their posture changes, their faith begins to rise again. Not because everything is fixed at once, but because hope returns to the room. That is what is happening here. Your tears are no longer just symbols of pain. They are becoming signs of approaching response. Hannah did not cry forever. There came a moment when the God who had watched in silence made His answer known. In the same way, your story is moving toward a moment where what has been hidden in sorrow will be answered in clarity. So stay tender, stay close, stay honest before the Lord. Let your soul remain open in His presence. The tears were not the end. They were the evidence. Heaven recorded them all, and heaven does not keep records without purpose. What has been witnessed above will be answered below. And when that answer comes, you will know with trembling certainty that not one tear fell in vain. Chosen one, there comes a moment in every sacred struggle when the pressure feels almost unbearable. Not because you are weak, but because something is about to shift. The breaking point is not always the end of a person. Sometimes it is the place where the last layer of self-protection falls away and the soul stands completely open before God. That is the place Hannah entered. She had carried the ache for so long that her strength could no longer come from pretending she was fine. She had endured the cycles, the disappointment, the inward humiliation, and the private exhaustion that only God fully understood. And when that weight reached its deepest point, it did not destroy her. It drove her into a more complete surrender. This is why the breaking point matters so much in the life of a chosen one. It reveals what pain has been trying to do to you, and what God is determined to bring out of you in spite of it. Pain tries to convince you that nothing will ever change. It whispers that delay is permanent, that silence means rejection, that weariness means you are coming apart beyond repair. But the Lord often allows you to come to the edge of yourself so that you stop reaching for lesser supports. At the breaking point, what used to hold you up no longer seems enough. Human reassurance becomes too small. Routine answers lose their power. Even your own ability to manage appearances begins to fail. And in that exposed place, heaven does something profound. God meets the soul that has finally run out of substitutes. Hannah was no longer standing before God with a composed presentation. She was not offering polished religious language. She was not trying to appear unshaken. She was carrying the full reality of her need, and that reality had brought her to the edge. This is important because many people think breakthrough arrives only after a display of strength, but often breakthrough begins when you stop performing strength and let truth stand in the room. Hannah did not break because God had abandoned her. She broke because she had reached the place where only God could carry what she was carrying. That kind of breaking is painful, but it is also holy. It clears away illusion. It exposes the true condition of the heart. It creates a place where a real exchange can happen between human weakness and divine mercy. You have known a version of this yourself. You have had moments when your inner life felt stretched to the limit, when your questions rose higher, when your heart felt tired of holding the same burden, when the silence around you seemed almost louder than words. Those moments are frightening because they make you feel as though you are close to collapse. Yet some of the most important turning points in your spiritual life happen there. Not when you are impressive, not when everything is neat and under control, but when you are honest enough to admit that you cannot carry the weight alone anymore. God is not offended by that confession. He is moved by it. He is drawn to the heart that stops pretending and begins to lean with full dependence on Him. This is what makes the breaking point before breakthrough so mysterious. To human eyes, it can look like unraveling. To heaven, it can be the exact moment alignment begins. The world may call it weakness, but God sees the soul coming into proper posture. Hannah was not disqualified by her distress. She was being brought to the place where her prayer would no longer come from habit, but from her deepest core. There is a kind of prayer that only comes out of desperation touched by faith. It is not theatrical. It is not manipulative. It is the cry of a life that has nowhere else to turn and has decided that turning to God is still better than shutting down completely. That is why this verse matters so deeply here. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. Psalm chapter 34, verse 18. This is not sentimental comfort, it is spiritual reality. God draws near to the brokenhearted not as a distant observer, but as the one who knows how to meet a person in the very place where strength has run thin. He does not wait for you to recover your image before He comes close. He comes close in the breaking. He comes close when your words fail. He comes close when your heart feels bruised and your faith is trembling. That nearness becomes the beginning of breakthrough. Hannah's story shows that the breaking point is not only about pain, it is about exchange. She entered burdened, and in the presence of God something shifted so deeply that when she rose, she did not rise as the same woman who had entered. The outward answer was still unfolding, but the inward storm had changed. This is one of the first signs that heaven has begun to move. Before circumstances fully turn, the soul begins to breathe differently. Despair loosens its grip. Panic begins to lose authority. A quiet steadiness returns, not because every question is solved, but because the Spirit has touched the nearness of God in the place of breaking. Chosen one, your edge is not evidence that your story is ending. It may be evidence that your breakthrough is closer than it has ever been. Do not fear the place where your own strength has reached its limit. Sometimes that is the very place where God's voice becomes clearest, where His presence becomes weightiest, where His answer begins to form with holy precision. The enemy wants you to interpret your exhaustion as defeat. But what if it is the final stage before release? What if the burden has become so intense because the season is about to turn? What if the tears, the silence, and the inward strain have all been leading to a moment where heaven answers not in fragments, but with unmistakable direction? Stay close in this hour. Let the breaking do its sacred work. Let it strip away every false support. Let it teach you that God's nearness is real even when your emotions are unstable. Let it remind you that chosen lives are not built by comfort alone, but by holy encounters in the places where human strength comes to an end. Hannah reached the edge, and the edge did not consume her. It became the threshold of divine response. Your life is moving in that same holy pattern. The breaking point is not the burial place of your hope. It is the doorway where breakthrough begins to breathe. Chosen one, before we go deeper, there is one gentle resource worth mentioning for those of you who have been feeling mentally drained, distracted, overwhelmed, or unable to settle your thoughts after carrying so much emotional and spiritual weight. It is called the Genius Wave, also referred to in some places as Genius Song, and it is presented as a short audio program built around brainwave entrainment, using sound patterns that are meant to support focus, mental clarity, creativity, calm, and a more settled inner state in just a few minutes a day. For someone who feels stuck in mental fog, scattered attention, stress, restless sleep, or a mind that will not slow down, that kind of tool may feel supportive during a heavy season. If you want to explore it, please use only the official source linked in the description or the pinned comment, and be careful with imitations or fake versions. Now let us return to what the Spirit is saying here, because the deeper answer you are seeking is not only about the mind becoming clearer, but about God breaking the long silence with unmistakable mercy. Chosen one. This is the point where the atmosphere begins to shift. The silence that once felt endless is no longer a wall around you. It is becoming a doorway. Hannah had already known what it meant to weep, to wait, to carry a private ache into the presence of God. She had already walked through the humiliation of delay, the exhaustion of repeated sorrow, and the inward strain of hoping while nothing seemed to change. But there came a moment when the story could not remain in the same place forever. That is what you need to hear now. There are seasons of silence, and then there are moments when God interrupts that silence so clearly that even the wounded parts of your heart know something has changed. This interruption does not always begin with noise. Sometimes it begins with holy clarity. Sometimes it begins with a peace that enters before the answer becomes visible. Sometimes it begins with a quiet certainty that the season of only enduring is giving way to the season of receiving. Hannah reached that threshold. She had poured out her soul. She had come to the end of her own strength. She had stopped trying to survive on appearances. And in that place, the silence was no longer empty. God was already moving toward response. This matters because many chosen ones expect God to speak only through dramatic signs. But often He first speaks by lifting the unbearable heaviness that has been pressing against the soul. He speaks by giving you strength to rise where before you could only remain bowed down. He speaks by replacing torment with steadiness. He speaks by planting assurance where panic once ruled. Hannah's story shows that before the visible answer fully unfolded, something changed in her posture. She did not leave the presence of God exactly as she had entered it. The burden had been brought to heaven, and heaven had not dismissed it. That is where your life may be standing now. You have been in the place of waiting so long that you almost forgot what inner ease feels like. You have lived under so much unspoken pressure that calm has felt unfamiliar. Yet when God begins to interrupt silence, one of the first signs is not always outward celebration, it is inward release. It is the soul realizing that despair is no longer in charge. It is the heart becoming able to breathe again. It is the spirit sensing that the long night is not endless after all. Do not miss the holiness of that moment. It may seem small to others, but it is not small in the realm of the spirit. When God restores peace to a tormented heart, He is not offering a shallow comfort. He is announcing that darkness does not have final authority. He is revealing that He has heard, that He has seen, and that He is not leaving you trapped in the same cycle forever. Hannah's silence had lasted a long time, but it did not have the last word. Neither will yours. There is also something else that happens when God begins to speak out loud after a season of silence. The things that once confused you begin to lose their power. You stop running in circles emotionally. You stop begging fear to tell you what comes next. You stop treating uncertainty as if it were truth. The voice of God has a way of gathering the scattered pieces of a wounded heart and bringing them into order. Not always all at once, and not always in the timeline you expected, but with a precision that leaves no doubt that He is present. That is why this moment is so sacred. You are not only being comforted, you are being realigned. Hannah did not force the answer into existence. She did not manipulate heaven into motion. She reached the place where surrender became complete, and in that place God answered in His own authority. That is a powerful word for you now. You do not have to manufacture the breakthrough. You do not have to exhaust yourself trying to produce what only God can release. Your part is to stay near, stay open, stay honest, and stay yielded. God's part is to speak in the way only He can. And when He does, what He says will carry a weight that striving could never create. Perhaps this is why your spirit has been stirred so deeply. Not because you are being abandoned again, but because heaven is drawing near with a response that will not sound like the old confusion. The Lord is not preparing to whisper uncertainty into your life. He is preparing to bring divine clarity into places that have been clouded for too long. He is preparing to answer the hidden cry beneath your silence. He is preparing to make room in your soul for renewed hope. He is preparing to show you that what felt still in your life was never still in His hands. So remain tender in this hour. Let your soul receive the first signs of holy interruption. Let yourself believe that God can change what has felt unchangeable. Let yourself accept that silence can end. Let yourself remember that Hannah's story did not freeze in grief. It moved into response. The God who watched her sorrow was the same God who shifted her future. And the God who has watched your tears is no less faithful now. Chosen one, the silence has done its work. It has deepened you. It has humbled you. It has taught you where to bring your soul, but it is not meant to reign forever. There comes a time when God steps into the stillness and makes His nearness undeniable. That is the time your spirit is approaching. The silence is being interrupted. The answer is drawing close. And when God begins to speak out loud through peace, timing, alignment, and mercy, you will know that heaven had been moving long before your eyes could see it. Chosen one, There is a moment when what was hidden can no longer remain hidden, and what was dismissed can no longer be treated as small. That is the kind of moment you are approaching now. The same life that people once overlooked, the same heart they did not understand, the same silence they misjudged, is about to become the place where God speaks with unmistakable force. This is not about human revenge. This is not about proving yourself through pride. This is about divine witness. It is about the Lord making it clear that what others treated lightly was never light in His eyes. What they ignored, He recorded. What they misread, He understood completely. And what they thought would fade into the background has remained under the hand of God the whole time. Hannah knew what it was to be seen incorrectly. She knew what it felt like to carry sorrow in public while her inner world remained mostly invisible to those around her. There are wounds that people observe without truly honoring. There are struggles they notice without understanding. There are seasons when others grow used to your pain because they cannot imagine your story changing. That is one of the hardest parts of a silent season. It is not only the burden itself, it is the way people begin to settle into a false version of your story. They decide that your grief is permanent. They assume your tears are simply part of who you are now. They stop expecting God to move because they have grown familiar with watching you wait. But human familiarity cannot cancel divine intention. People may become comfortable with your silence, but God never confuses your hidden season with your final identity. Hannah was not always going to remain the woman defined only by sorrow. The very place where people had seen her pain would one day become the place where they could no longer deny that God had intervened. That is the way the Lord often works. He does not always remove you from the setting of misunderstanding right away. Sometimes He chooses to reveal His faithfulness in the very environment where your weakness was witnessed. He does this so that no one can say the change came from chance. Image management or self-promotion. They have to admit that God has spoken. This is why you must not lose heart when people fail to perceive what God is doing in you. Their inability to understand does not mean heaven is inactive. It simply means they have not been given the full sight that belongs to God alone. Some of them looked at your restraint and assumed you had no authority. They looked at your quietness and assumed you had no future. They looked at your delay and assumed you had no favor. But what they called nothing was actually preparation. What they called emptiness was actually consecration. What they called the end was actually the deep middle of a holy process. There comes a point when God begins to overturn those assumptions without you having to argue with anyone. Hannah did not need to force people to recognize her turning point. She did not need to campaign for validation. She did not need to gather sympathy to make her pain legitimate. God Himself became the answer. That is what happens when divine speech enters a life that has been marked by long silence. Suddenly, the evidence becomes too visible to deny. The peace is too real to ignore. The shift is too deep to explain away. Even those who once reduced your experience to something small begin to sense that a greater hand has moved. Chosen one, hear this clearly. You do not need every person to understand your journey in order for God's purpose to stand. You do not need universal approval. You do not need to rewrite yourself into something easier for others to accept. The Lord is able to speak so clearly through your life that people who overlooked you must confront the fact that His hand has been on you all along. This is one of the quiet powers of divine vindication. It does not always come through confrontation. Sometimes it comes through unmistakable transformation. Sometimes it comes through seeing that the one who once wept in silence now carries a settled strength that did not come from human support. Sometimes it comes through watching a person rise with grace after a season that should have crushed them. If this word is meeting you in a real place, Take a quiet moment to like this message, share it with someone whose voice has also been overlooked, and subscribe so you can keep walking through these deeper moments of spiritual encouragement with us. And if you want to support this work in a practical way, you can use the donation link in the description, helping these messages continue to reach hearts that are carrying silent battles. There is something deeply sacred about the hour when God begins to make himself known through the life of a chosen one who has endured in silence. It is not only that others begin to notice, it is that the chosen one begins to see differently too. Hannah was not merely changed in the eyes of others. She was changed in her own spirit. Once God speaks, you stop relating to yourself only through the lens of your pain. You stop reading your story only through what has not happened yet. You begin to recognize that you were never abandoned. You were being carried. You were being heard. You were being prepared for a moment when heaven would answer so distinctly that no previous misunderstanding could define you anymore. This is why the next season of your life must not be approached with fear. The voices that once ignored your pain, dismissed your depth, or underestimated your calling do not have the final word over you. God's voice does. His interpretation of your life is the only one that can fully reveal who you are. And when he begins to speak out loud, his voice has a way of rearranging every false conclusion that has been hanging over your story. He can restore dignity where shame tried to settle. He can restore confidence where delay tried to hollow you out. He can restore holy identity where long grief tried to reduce you. So do not bow to the memory of being overlooked. Do not let old misunderstanding train you to expect permanent smallness. Hannah's life was not destined to remain trapped inside the narrow expectations of other people. Neither is yours. The God who heard her in secret also knew how to answer in a way that could be witnessed. The God who watched her hidden anguish also knew how to bring her into a visible testimony. In the same way, your life is moving toward a season where what God has done in secret will begin to show through your peace, your strength, your clarity, and your restored sense of purpose. Chosen one, let this settle into your bones. Those who ignored you are not the authors of your future. Those who failed to understand you are not the interpreters of your calling. God is, and when he chooses to speak through your life, even silence becomes a trumpet. Even hidden sorrow becomes holy evidence. Even the ones who overlooked you are forced to recognize that heaven has been near you all along. Chosen one, there comes a sacred hour when what heaven has been doing in silence begins to unfold as vindication. Not the shallow kind that feeds pride, but the holy kind that restores what pain tried to steal. This is the moment when God does not merely comfort the wounded heart. He begins to correct the atmosphere around that heart. He begins to answer the distortion, the delay, the misunderstanding, and the quiet humiliation that tried to settle over your life like a permanent cloud. Vindication is not simply about being proven right before people. It is about God revealing that he was present in your sorrow, active in your waiting, and sovereign over the story even when nothing made sense. This is why Hannah's life continues to speak with such force into your own. Her story was never meant to end in silent grief. The very place that held her tears would also become the place where God's faithfulness could no longer be denied. What made her vindication so beautiful was that it did not rise from bitterness. It rose from divine intervention. She did not have to harden her heart to survive. She did not have to become cruel in order to remain standing. She did not have to spend her life chasing validation from the people around her. God himself became the answer to what had wounded her. And when God becomes the answer, the restoration carries a depth that human approval could never produce. Many people misunderstand vindication because they imagine it as public applause. But divine vindication is deeper than applause. It restores dignity where shame tried to settle. It restores peace where torment tried to make a home. It restores identity where repeated disappointment tried to reduce you. It restores the soul's ability to stand upright again under the gaze of God. Hannah's sorrow had touched every part of her inner life. It affected how she carried herself, how she prayed, how she entered sacred spaces, how she endured the passing of time. So when God moved on her behalf, He was not offering a small patch over a large wound. He was unfolding a restoration that reached into the very place where the pain had lived. That is what makes this season so important for you. You are not only waiting for circumstances to shift, you are being brought into a moment where God begins to restore what was quietly drained from you over time. Some things were not taken from you in one dramatic blow. They were worn down by long waiting, by hidden sorrow, by repeated disappointment, by the exhaustion of hoping again after so many delays. Little by little, you felt parts of yourself grow tired. Confidence weakened, expectation dimmed, joy became harder to access. It was not that you stopped believing completely. It was that your soul became worn thin by carrying too much for too long. But the Lord who watched Hannah is the same Lord watching you. And He knows how to restore the places that have quietly eroded under pressure. This is the beauty of divine justice. It does not only address the visible loss, it addresses the invisible damage. It ministers to the inner life. It repairs the places where sorrow took root. It reminds the chosen one that delay does not have the authority to define the future. Hannah's vindication was not loud in the way the world often celebrates victory. It was holy. It was personal. It was unmistakable. God answered in a way that revealed He had heard every tear, understood every ache, and measured every moment of silent endurance. That is the kind of justice heaven brings, not rushed, not shallow, not theatrical, but exact. Hold this word close because it reveals the heart of what God does for those who remain before Him in truth. He raises up the poor from the dust. He lifts the needy from the ash heap. 1 Samuel chapter 2, verse 8. Hannah herself spoke words like these after the Lord turned her mourning toward joy. She had lived long enough to know that God's justice is not a rumor. It is real. He lifts, He restores. He reverses what human eyes had accepted as final. He does not always move according to human urgency, but when He moves, He reveals that no season of grief had the power to remove His hand from the chosen life. This is why you must not surrender your heart to hopelessness now. Hopelessness is one of the final attacks that comes before restoration becomes visible. It tries to persuade you that because the pain lasted long, it must last forever. It tries to make you interpret the past as prophecy over the future. But Hannah's life rejects that lie. Her years of sorrow were real, but they were not eternal. Her humiliation was painful, but it was not permanent. The God who allowed the hidden season to shape her also appointed a time when the hidden season would give way to visible mercy. Chosen one, let that truth steady you. Divine vindication is not merely God changing the opinions of people around you. It is God restoring order where pain created disorder. It is God removing the false finality that grief tried to place over your story. It is God showing that your tears were not a dead end, but a pathway into deeper encounter and greater testimony. The very places where you felt reduced will become places where His strength is seen. The very memories that once carried heaviness will one day bear witness to how faithfully He sustained you. This is not because suffering was good in itself. It is because God is so sovereign that he can bring restoration out of what looked barren. Hannah's story teaches you another sacred truth. When vindication unfolds, it often comes with humility. A soul that has truly been through the valley does not rise with arrogance. It rises with awe. It rises knowing that no human strategy could have produced what God has done. It rises with reverence because the answer carries the fingerprints of heaven. That is the kind of restoration being prepared for you. Not one that makes you boast in yourself, but one that makes you bow in gratitude. Not one that makes you worship the outcome, but one that makes you adore the God who remained faithful through every silent hour. So stay close in this part of the journey. Do not rush ahead of the Lord. Do not let old pain speak louder than present promise. The restoration unfolding over your life is not random. It is the outworking of a God who heard what no one else fully heard and saw what no one else fully saw. Hannah became living proof that sorrow does not get the last word over a chosen life. And you are being brought into that same holy revelation now. Divine vindication is unfolding, and as it unfolds, it will restore more than circumstances. It will restore the parts of you that silence almost convinced were gone forever. Chosen one, after vindication begins to unfold, another sacred change follows close behind it. Your spirit starts rising into a higher place of awareness, not because you suddenly become untouched by life, but because you are no longer seeing yourself only through the lens of pain. This is the elevation of the inner life. It is the moment when sorrow stops sitting on the throne of your identity, and the voice of God begins to shape how you understand your place in His purpose. Many people think elevation means platform, visibility, or outward increase. But heaven often begins with the spirit. God lifts the way you see, the way you discern, the way you carry His presence, and the way you respond to what once would have shaken you. That is the kind of rising now taking place within you. Hannah's story reveals this beautifully. She was not only a woman who received an answer, she became a woman whose spirit had been deepened by her process with God. She did not come out of her waiting season shallow. She came out of it changed. Her pain had driven her into a more intimate dependence on the Lord, and that dependence became part of her strength. She had learned how to bring anguish into the presence of God without letting anguish become her God. She had learned how to pour out her soul and still remain reverent. She had learned that the hidden place with God could transform a burdened heart into a steady one. That is elevation. It is not merely getting what you asked for. It is becoming someone who can carry God's answer with humility, clarity, and worship. This is what is happening in you now. The long silence has been refining your hearing. The tears have been softening your pride. The waiting has been teaching you how to discern the difference between noise and truth. There was a time when many things could pull at your emotions and lead your thoughts in circles. There was a time when fear could sit close and feel convincing. There was a time when the opinions of others seemed to have too much power over your peace. But the Spirit of God has been maturing you in the hidden place. He has been teaching you to return to His presence faster than you return to panic. He has been teaching you to recognize when your soul is being pulled downward and how to rise again in Him. That rise matters because a new assignment always requires a new level of spiritual awareness. Hannah's elevation was not only personal, it connected to purpose. What God did in her life was larger than relief. It became part of a story that reached beyond her own pain. This is one of the holy surprises of a chosen life. You think you are only asking God to heal what hurts. But in the process, He begins shaping you for something that will serve others too. He strengthens your inner life so your testimony carries weight. He clears your vision so your obedience becomes cleaner. He deepens your reverence so that what he entrusts to you will be handled as holy. That is why this season feels different. You are not just recovering, you are rising. There is a difference. Recovery brings back what was weakened. Rising brings you into a place you could not have occupied before the process. Recovery restores breath, rising restores authority. Recovery heals what was wounded, rising awakens what was dormant. And many chosen ones miss this because they keep expecting God only to return them to who they were before the pain. But sometimes God does something greater. He does not merely return you to your former self. He lifts you into a deeper self, a steadier self, a more discerning self, a more surrendered self. Hannah carried that kind of elevation. Her heart had walked through sorrow, but her spirit had learned the rhythm of trust. She had discovered that brokenness before God is not the same as defeat. She had learned that surrender is not the same as weakness. She had learned that the Lord can take a long season of hidden ache and turn it into spiritual substance. That substance is precious. It is what makes your words carry more truth now. It is what makes your prayers less performative and more alive. It is what makes your peace feel less fragile. It is what makes your discernment sharper when something is not of God. You are being elevated from emotional survival into spiritual perception. Hold this verse close because it speaks to the kind of lifting God brings to a yielded heart. He lifted me out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and mire. He set my feet on a rock and gave me a firm place to stand. Psalm chapter 40, verse 2. That is not only rescue, that is repositioning. He lifts, he sets, and he establishes. He does not pull you out only to leave you uncertain and unstable. He places you where your footing becomes firmer. He changes your spiritual posture. He teaches your soul how to stand. Chosen one, let yourself receive that. You do not have to keep speaking about yourself as if you are still trapped in the lowest place. You do not have to keep agreeing with the old heaviness that once covered your mind. God is lifting your spirit higher. He is expanding your ability to perceive His hand. He is strengthening your inner world so that when new responsibility comes, you will not meet it with the same fear that once shook you. This elevation is quiet, but it is real. It is happening when you choose peace over panic. It is happening when you return to prayer instead of spiraling. It is happening when your heart stays soft, even after all it has survived. Right, I rise below. There is power in that simple agreement because your spirit needs to hear your mouth align with what heaven is doing. You are not staying in the emotional graveyard of old sorrow. You are not remaining under the dust of long disappointment. You are being lifted. Hannah's story proves that a soul can go from anguish to adoration, from private grief to sacred strength, from silent tears to spiritual authority. That is the movement now unfolding in you. So keep your heart open, keep your hearing clear, keep your eyes on the Lord. Do not reduce this season to the language of mere survival. Something more is happening. God is not only comforting you, He is elevating you. He is training your spirit to stand higher, see clearer, trust deeper, and carry more of His presence without breaking. The silence moved heaven. The tears were recorded. Vindication has begun. And now your spirit is being raised into a place where you can recognize the next chapter with holy clarity. You are rising, chosen one, and the height God is bringing you into begins first within. Chosen one, every elevation in the spirit eventually leads to a holy decision. Once God has lifted your heart, steadied your mind, and made His nearness more real to you than your fear, the next question becomes unavoidable. Will you say yes to what He is now asking of you? This is where many people want comfort without commission. healing without obedience, and clarity without surrender. But the Lord does not raise you merely to make you feel better. He raises you so you can walk in agreement with the purpose that was being formed in you all along. That is why this part of your journey matters so deeply. The silence was not only about endurance. The tears were not only about survival. The vindication was not only about restoration. All of it has been bringing you toward a moment of response, where your spirit no longer asks only for relief, but becomes willing to carry what God entrusts to it. This is why Hannah remains such a fitting companion to your story. Her life did not stop at answered prayer. Her answer opened the door to consecration. She had poured out her pain before the Lord, and when the Lord moved, she understood that what had been given was not meant to be held carelessly. She recognized that heaven's response carried a claim on her future. That is what makes her story so powerful. She did not meet divine mercy with possession. She met it with reverence. She did not treat the answer as something separate from God. She understood that what came from Him must be held before Him. That kind of posture is the sign of a mature spirit. And now you are standing near that same kind of threshold. God has not brought you this far just to return you to old patterns, old excuses, or old compromises. He has not strengthened your inner life so that you can drift back into spiritual hesitation. He has not restored your peace so that you can hand your attention back to confusion. A new assignment requires your yes, not a fearful yes, not a forced yes, a surrendered yes, a steady yes. A yes that rises from having seen enough of God's faithfulness that you no longer want to live half-given. The next chapter of your life will not be built merely by what God does for you. It will also be shaped by how you answer Him. That answer may not look dramatic at first. Many holy yeses begin quietly. They begin in daily obedience, in cleaner choices, in a more guarded heart, in a refusal to return to what once drained your spirit, in a willingness to honor what God has healed instead of reopening old wounds out of habit. They begin when you stop negotiating with the very things that once kept you emotionally and spiritually bound. They begin when you admit that if God has truly brought you through the valley, then you cannot keep building your home there in your imagination. Hannah's yes was not abstract. It touched how she lived, how she remembered, how she honored the God who had answered her. In the same way, your yes must become visible in the texture of your life. This matters because every new level of grace carries fresh responsibility. When a chosen one has come through silence, sorrow, and spiritual refinement, there is now something precious to guard. Your clarity must be guarded. Your peace must be guarded. Your reverence must be guarded. Your obedience must be guarded, not with fear, but with seriousness. You now know too much of God's keeping power to treat this next season casually. You now know too much about what it costs to remain soft before Him. You now know too much about how long silence can shape a soul. So when the Lord begins to place new direction before you, do not respond with the same divided heart you may have lived with before. Let your answer come from the deeper place He has formed in you. Hannah shows you that the most powerful yes is born from gratitude, not pressure. She knew what it was to be empty. She knew what it was to long for what she could not create by effort. So when the Lord moved, her response carried humility. That is the kind of yes God is drawing from you now, not one fueled by panic, as though you must earn what He has done, not one fueled by image, as though obedience is performance, but one fueled by holy remembrance. You remember the tears, you remember the waiting, you remember the silence, you remember the breaking point, and because you remember, your spirit says, Lord, I do not want to waste what you have formed in me here. Hold this verse close because it expresses the heart of consecrated response. For this child I prayed, and the Lord has granted me my petition that I made to him. Therefore I have lent him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he is lent to the Lord. 1 Samuel chapter 1 verses 27 through 28. These words reveal more than gratitude. They reveal surrender. Hannah did not receive and then forget the giver. She answered mercy with devotion. She understood that answered prayer is not the end of intimacy with God. It is an invitation into deeper partnership with Him. Chosen one, that is where your life is turning now. The next level is not simply about receiving what you asked for. It is about becoming the kind of person who can say yes when God asks for greater trust, cleaner obedience, deeper devotion, and a life more fully aligned with His voice. Some things in you must remain behind now. Old agreements with fear must remain behind. Old habits of doubting what God has clearly shown you must remain behind. Old forms of self-protection that kept you distant from full surrender must remain behind. A new assignment cannot be carried with an old posture. Do not be afraid of that. God's call never comes merely to take from you. It comes to align you with what you were made for. The yes He is asking from you is not a trap. It is the doorway into the next expression of your calling. Hannah's story proves that a soul can move from anguish into reverence, from silence into song, from waiting into willing partnership with God. And that same holy movement is now unfolding in you. The answer that heaven is bringing is not only meant to comfort your heart, it is meant to awaken your obedience. So stand still before the Lord in this hour and let your spirit become simple again. Let your answer be clean. Let it be free from bargaining. Let it be free from delay. You have come too far through silence to shrink back now that God is making His voice known. The season ahead will require your yes, but it will not ask for it without grace. The one who carried Hannah through her sorrow also carried her into surrender. And the one who has carried you this far will give you strength for the obedience that comes next. You are not merely being restored. You are being called. And your yes will become the bridge between everything heaven has healed in you and everything heaven now wants to do through you. Chosen one. This is where the story becomes impossible to hide. What began in silence now stands as living evidence that God never abandoned you. What was once carried in tears has become a testimony with weight, depth, and holy clarity. You are no longer only the person who survived a quiet season. You are becoming the person whose life now speaks for the faithfulness of God. This is the final turn in the journey. The silence moved heaven. The testing formed you. The tears were recorded. The breaking point prepared you. Vindication unfolded. Your spirit was elevated. Your yes was drawn out of you. And now what remains is the evidence. Not borrowed evidence from someone else's story. Not borrowed strength from someone else's faith. Your own life has become proof that God hears, keeps, restores, and speaks in His perfect time. This is why Hannah's story fits so beautifully beside your own all the way to this moment. She did not remain only the woman who wept. She became the woman whose life testified. She became the woman whose journey proved that hidden sorrow is not invisible to God, that long delay is not the same as divine refusal, and that a broken heart laid before the Lord can become the birthplace of something holy. Her story did not erase the pain that came before, but it revealed that the pain did not have final authority. That is what your life is becoming now. Not a life without scars, but a life where the scars can no longer deny the healing hand of God. Not a life without memory, but a life where memory itself begins to serve worship instead of despair. There is something powerful about becoming evidence. Evidence does not need to shout. Evidence stands. Evidence remains. Evidence carries a quiet authority because it exists whether people approve of it or not. When God makes you living evidence, you do not have to force your story on anyone. The peace on your life begins to speak. The steadiness in your spirit begins to speak. The way you carry pain differently begins to speak. The clarity in your eyes begins to speak. The reverence in your choices begins to speak. Even those who never understood your hidden season begin to sense that something real has happened between you and God. That is because when heaven writes a testimony into a human life, it cannot stay fully concealed forever. And what makes this evidence so sacred is that it was formed where no crowd could help you. It was formed in the private nights, in the unanswered questions, in the seasons where your heart had to decide whether it would still trust God without visible change. It was formed in the place where Hannah also stood, pouring out her soul before the Lord when there was no guarantee of immediate relief. That is why the testimony carries substance. It was not built on convenience. It was built on encounter. It was not built on image. It was built on surrender. It was not built on easy moments. It was built where faith had to survive without applause. This is also why your life now has the power to strengthen others. People who are still in the middle of their silent season need to see what God's faithfulness looks like when it reaches the other side of waiting. They need to see that silence is not emptiness. They need to see that tears are not wasted. They need to see that a chosen one can bend without breaking, can weep without losing covenant, can wait without being forgotten. Your testimony will not only bless you, it will become a shelter for someone else. It will become language for someone who cannot yet explain their own pain. It will become a sign that God's timing is real. His mercy is real, and His voice still cuts through long seasons of sorrow. So let prayer rise here, gently and truthfully, because this is the right place for it. Father, thank you for the chosen one listening right now. Thank you that you did not lose sight of them in the silence. Thank you for every tear you counted, every prayer you heard, every night you stayed near when they felt alone. Thank you for sustaining them when their strength ran thin. Thank you for guarding their mind when confusion tried to overtake them. Thank you for keeping their heart alive when disappointment tried to make it cold. Lord, let every hidden place be touched by your peace. Let every wound that still aches be covered by your healing presence. Let every false word spoken over their future lose its power in the light of your truth. Give them courage for the next step, clarity for the next season, and a deep settled assurance that they are still in your hands. As you remembered Hannah, remember them in the visible places of their life. As you lifted her sorrow, lift the burdens they still carry. As you turned waiting into testimony, turn their silence into holy evidence. Let their life speak of your mercy with humility, with purity, and with unwavering gratitude. In the name of Jesus, amen. Chosen one, breathe in that prayer and let it settle. You do not have to manufacture your testimony. You only have to stay yielded as God continues writing it. The most beautiful evidence is never self-made. It is God-formed. It is shaped through surrender, through remembrance, through obedience, and through a heart that keeps returning to Him. Hannah became evidence not because she controlled the process, but because she stayed before the Lord long enough for His faithfulness to become undeniable. You are being brought into that same place now, and as this message reaches its close, let it keep moving beyond just this one moment. If this word has met you deeply, gently like this message. Share it with someone who needs to be reminded that silence is not abandonment. And subscribe so you can keep walking in this stream of encouragement and spiritual strength. And if this ministry has truly helped steady your heart, you can also support it through the donation link in the description. Every act of support helps these messages continue reaching those who are still carrying hidden sorrow and waiting for a word from heaven. Now stand in this final truth. You are not the forgotten one. You are not the overlooked one. You are not the permanently delayed one. You are God's chosen one, and your life is becoming living evidence that He still intervenes, still restores, still speaks, and still completes what He begins. Hannah's journey proves it. Your own story is proving it now. The silence did not bury you. It prepared you. The tears did not weaken you. They witnessed for you. The waiting did not erase you. It deepened you. And the voice of God that is rising over your life now will not leave you where it found you. You are stepping forward as living evidence that heaven heard, heaven moved, and heaven answered. The journey has brought you from silence to speech, from hidden sorrow to holy evidence, from the ache of waiting to the quiet certainty that God was present in every unseen moment. Carry that truth gently now. Let it shape how you wake, how you pray, how you remember, and how you walk into what comes next. You do not need to rush to prove anything. Your life itself will speak. Stay humble. Stay close to God. Stay faithful with what He has placed in your hands. Let Hannah's story remain in your spirit as a witness that the Lord does not ignore the soul poured out before Him. He answers in wisdom, in mercy, and in time. And just as He was faithful then, He will remain faithful now. What He has begun in you will continue to unfold with purpose. Your best response is still the same simple posture that carried you through the silence. Stay near. Stay surrendered. Stay open. The God who spoke over your waiting will also speak over your future, and what He says will stand.